Welcome to another WikiTree Member Q&A via Zoom session. My name is Betsy Coe. We started the series back in 2022 to give WikiTreeers a chance to ask their questions in real time. Screen sharing on Zoom allows us to look at and edit profiles while we chat. No topic is off limits, and we always want to remind folks that no question is too basic. Now, let's get to it.
Introduce myself first. My name's Hilary. I have been on WikiTree since 2011, and I am a project coordinator for both the England and Wales projects, and I'm also one of the greeters and a mentor. Next to me here is Denise, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. I'm Denise Jarrett. I've been a member of WikiTree since 2020, still learning something new every day. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. I started coming out to this meeting to learn new things as well. So feel free to ask any questions that you may have. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Murray.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the user Q&A, and we're here to help you figure out what the heck you're doing on this wonderful WikiTree place. And I had some fun last night doing something new and different, or actually it was kind of old and the same, but it was new and different also. And with that, I'll pass it on to Steven.
Hey everybody, Steven Greenwood. Again, I've been here for coming up on 6 years now. I was working on a bunch of name study stuff last night, actually. I decided to go back into one of my old name studies and add some links, add some categories, kind of fill in the gaps that I've been missing on that. And again, my specialty tends to be in the Germans, the Wisconsinites, and where they overlap, where I tend to be a lot of notables. They just have a lot of projects, really. I don't even know where the endpoint is. I don't think there is an endpoint, honestly. until I'm gone, right?
Yeah, there's always something new to find. Put it this way.
Exactly.
I'm still updating things that I added in 2011, and a lot of them, because people are still alive and whatever that I've uploaded, some of it is just sort of been left, and people that, and I'm gradually finding out people that have gone that I didn't know about because I put quite distant relatives on as well as my closer ones. So and just generally sort of updating things. You get told when people get to a stage where they've got to be open, but you don't get told about the ones that might have something might may no longer be with us, but were when I first added people, because it's such a long time ago. So yeah.
And I can't tell you how many profiles I've come across that I used to work on, and I look at them and I'm like, man, this sucks. And then I go in with my new formatting that I've come up with in the last couple of years, be like, oh, this looks so much better, right? It's legible, it's researchable. But yeah, it's amazing what a couple of years will do.
Yeah. And as you learn more, you tend to go back and redo. So we're glad to have everyone. If you have any questions, stick them in the chat. And Gordon has already given a task to Murray, and he's going to share that with us.
The profile of George Jürgen Friedrich Erdmann Ulrich.
Yeah, that's all one name.
Say that again, Stephen?
Oh, so George Jürgen Friedrich Erdmann would be his first name. There are no middle names in German.
Same as the French.
Okay.
Now this was pointed out by Gordon because he found a permission to. It's a permission to work or permission to immigrate?
Immigrate.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's all in German, so I can't read it, but maybe Stephen or Gordon wants to...
I can translate it really quick here. So what's the profile ID?
Ulrich 15.
Ulrich 15. Okay, let me just go to that, and then I'll stick it into translate.
Well, basically what's going on is the man is writing because he already has permission for himself, his wife, and their 5 children to emigrate. However, the wife had been married before and had 3 children by the first husband. They are all under guardianship. And he has asked the local office for permission for them to emigrate because the mother can't bear to leave her first 3 children behind and they wish to come. And the guardian is fine with their leaving, but the local office has denied the request. So now he's having to appeal directly to the Grand Duke. And he explains that although the middle child of these 3, a boy, has reached the age of 18 and he has not fulfilled military service yet, the father-in-law is willing to put up money to pay for a substitute to make sure that the Grand Duchy is not out anything. So everything is in order so long as permission is given. And obviously it was ultimately given because the 3 children end up in Clayton County, Iowa.
And I just posted the English translation to the best of Google's knowledge and ability in the chat for us.
Now,
Awesome.
Gordon, tell us
Thank you.
about how you found this.
Well, I'm working, sort of my retirement life's work ahead of me is I'm president of something called the Immigrant Genealogical Society, and until about 4 years ago, we had a 97-year-old member of the board of directors who had devoted 30 years to German research for his 2 birth parents and his 2 adoptive parents, who all came from Germany and had ties in Mecklenburg-Schwerin. And it's a complex web. And when he died, his daughter contacted me because she had all of these boxes of his research and his books, and no one in the family was interested, is commonly the case. And she just didn't want to put it all in the dumpster. And I said, yes, I'll take it all. And I filled pretty much my vehicle with 13 boxes of research and books and brought this all back. And now I have it at the library for my genealogical society. And my object is to take what he did and put it in WikiTree where it can be preserved. Because all of this ultimately has to do with Clayton County, Iowa. You can go to Koevenig, that's Koevenig 6, to learn about him.
Sorry, you're going to have to give that. Let me just get that out of the way.
Koevenig.
Yep. Sorry, go.
And
EVE.
N is Nancy.
No, what's after EVE?
NIG 6.
Oh,
Okay. A Becker.
Yeah.
I'm always looking
So
for
I've got
Beckers.
4 boxes of files, one for each of his parents, 2 adoptive and 2 biological parents.
Okay.
So I have a Becker box, but I've only begun to scratch the surface because I'm serving on a civil grand jury until middle of next month. So you're not going to find anything there. I haven't been able to put much in. If you go to the Ancestry portion, you'll see a little bit.
Right. I have Becker ancestors. Well, I can only identify really one of them for sure. But he came over to Quebec during the French and Indian Wars.
And obviously, I'll have to go back and clean up some of the earlier entries. Some of those should say Deutscher Bund instead of Germany, but
Sure.
you know, small things.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to mention that. Just typing it up as you brought it up. Yeah, we can clarify some of those things.
Well, I'll join the Germany project when I have more time, but right now I'm kind of swamped.
I understand. Well, I can certainly assist with it. You know, I can come in and clean up a couple of things if you need that
Sure.
assistance.
Well, you don't need to wait. Those are open.
Well, is it okay if I open up George's
Yeah.
profile since you're focusing on a different one right now?
Sure.
Okay. I was going to take out the year, by the way, in terms of WikiTree being able to search locations properly. I think we have to take out the yearly information that auto-populates. Like we don't actually leave it in there when we save. So it's okay if I remove that?
You'll have to show me what you're talking about because I'm
Okay.
not.
Can you see here within the birth information that it has the
Yes.
location, but then the location also has a range on it?
Yes.
Now, I'm guessing that maybe this was trying to define the existence of Mecklenburg-Schwerin as a duchy. Is that what that range is referring to?
Well, that's the range that was given by the suggestion.
Okay. So I think we'll remove it because while it does show up as a suggestion, it doesn't actually save. It shouldn't actually save that information.
Okay.
And I think by being in there, it might make it more complicated for finding the location. Like if we were trying to track it on like a
You
trade app or
froze.
something. Go ahead.
No, I thought you froze.
Did I freeze?
I think you did.
Okay. Well, like I was just saying, because it could create an error, I was just going to remove it here. You know, because
Sure.
it might auto-populate, but it might not allow us to use like tree apps properly or something. We're trying to chart location. So Deutscher Bund would be accurate. I think it might technically be like Nord Deutscher Bund, like the North German Confederation. But I can see that it's trying to autofill some of these as Germany, 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 Germany,
Yeah.
and we don't want to use any of those.
Right.
But we do know it is still Mecklenburg-Schwerin because that exists as a Grand Duchy. I just looked that up really quick here. So that existed until the German Empire began in 1871, and it was as early as 1815 as part of the German Confederation, and then later became part of the North German Confederation from 67 to 71. So at this time when he was born, it was just part of the German Confederation. So we
Yes.
can keep that in as Deutscher Bund, which is German for German Confederation. Just take out that. And then since I was just going to go down to the bio here, I know that the bio likes to autofill stuff in terms of location, so it puts in Deutschland. I think we can keep it the same within the source, but I think within the narrative, we should probably update it to what it actually was.
Good.
Does that sound
Yes.
correct to the rest of my people here? Like we want to
I'm
present
certainly
information.
good with that. I just again I'm learning as we all are. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little uncertain on whether or not we should present the info as it was presented by the source or as it was presented by the transcription of the source, or if we should try to make sure that's as accurate as possible and then keep the source information the same.
I would do the latter.
I think it should be as the source, original source.
Right,
at
like all this
possible.
data here wouldn't change
Yeah.
because that's where we got it from. But here, over here, I feel like this is what would need to change. Like we're not
Yes.
saying it's
Above the,
Deutschland because it wasn't.
above the angle bracket ref mark.
Yeah. And even then, it just specifies as Mecklenburg, not Mecklenburg-Schwerin, which I guess technically they were breaking it up into two different components. And Mecklenburg-Schwerin was a combination, I think, of two
They were
territories.
two different jurisdictions, two different countries, as it were.
Now, I have a question related to that because I saw some communications, I believe, from Jamie about location variations. Do you know any details about that, Murray or Hilary? You're muted, Murray.
I know certainly from the point of view of England, a lot of our categorization team have been working on locations, trying to get the locations better for the time periods and things because of all the jurisdiction changes that have been made over the years. And I suspect they're doing it in other places as well, where they can, if they've got enough people with enough knowledge or that are willing to spend time doing it, because it's a very difficult thing. For England, the worst place to try and sort out is what is now known as London, because it came like Greater London, which brought in so much more in terms of area. Whereas originally there was just the city of London and everything else was in one of the other surrounding counties. So, I mean, I'm just talking about England, let alone anywhere else in the world where there must have been changes. I mean, the amount of changes there's been in Europe in various countries, that are countries now that perhaps were just all separate states, a lot smaller states in the past. It's a huge job, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing is static.
So, does that involve making corrections to the list that shows up when you're entering information in the location fields?
I think what would like to do is WikiTree to actually have its own list rather than relying on the family search ones, because some of the family search ones certainly are not always that accurate. So they try to, but I mean, not everybody that's working on a lot of these things are actually working in the actual country itself and know enough about the jurisdictions in the countries. So.
Thankfully, though, we do have enough people in Germany project that can define like what those areas should be. So, I mean, at least there's that. I am operating out of America, so it's like, okay, I don't know all these locations. I can't drive to them. But you can see that the drop-down list is heavily slanted towards Germany because it's using the family search recommendations, and I have to do a lot of place name clarification. So we're overriding it just to get that to stick. Anyway, yeah.
So do we have to submit like a request? Do we have to submit like a request or something to get that added so that in the future it will appear in that list? Or how does that work?
Can I say what I think I know?
Sure.
What I think I know is that Chris Whitten says that that building our own location database is not a priority for WikiTree. He'd rather we were working on other things than that, and that's not a priority. On the other hand, Alesh has a database that he uses to generate suggestions, so that if he sees, if he sees a profile, if his tools see a profile that has a name that he doesn't recognize, or his database doesn't recognize, he gives you a suggestion and says, hey, I don't know what this country is. So there's that. Then there's Riel and Ian, who are working on their location stuff, because Riel got very, very frustrated trying to deal with the South African place names that are coming out of Family Search. So you may have seen that Ian and Riel have done something where you can add the capability in when you're entering a location to add other, specific locations to use their database for the suggestions. So that instead of using family searches, you're using theirs. Okay. Ian has been working on the UK. Riel has been working on South Africa. I don't know. I think that Cindy Cooper submitted information to Ian about Nova Scotia, but the rest of Canada hasn't been done. There are complexities that aren't being dealt with. For example, this is a pet issue of mine, as you can see from my background. So in Canada, as different from the United States, the Native people here are considered nations. That is, they are sovereign nations that exist within the territory of Canada. In fact, some of their nations cross territories, so they exist both in the United States and in Canada. Okay. Now, in the United States, the notion of sovereign nations within the country doesn't exist. That's not even up for discussion. But in Canada, it does exist. Okay, so we have sovereign nations that exist within Canada, and those sovereign nations will remind you politely and loudly that they have not ceded their territory. Okay, so you have places in Canada that have native names and also have English names and French names. Okay, and depending on the person, they may consider themselves to have been born in, for example, Gaspé-Gawagi, or in the Gaspé Peninsula, or Haut-Pénissel-Gaspésie. Okay, so there's three languages involved there, and three cultures involved there, and it's only one person.
Okay.
Okay, and depending on how that person lived their life, they may want their birth location or death location or marriage location to be reflected as that. Okay, and so that's not going to be nobody's trying to deal with that right at the moment. Okay. Yeah, and so
nobody wants to deal with that at the moment.
Say that again, Stephen.
I mean, do people want to go into this level of complexity? If they're specialized in that area of research like you would be, I mean, is that something that you would undertake?
Well, I would undertake it for those people for whom it's relevant. Yeah.
Okay, for those
of course.
That are relevant.
It's a question of respecting the people, and part of what we're supposed to do on WikiTree is observe how they did things then.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the problems that we have, in technology is we try to simplify things. Right. We want everything to be simple so that we can stick it in our database. But sometimes things just aren't simple. And and in Canada, we have the notion of reconciliation. And so we're in a process now within this country of trying to reconcile with the Native people. And and the United Nations has said that it's a human right to have your name in your own language and have your place names in your own language, etc. Okay, and so this, I feel strongly that this needs to be respected. But
yeah, I agree.
There's this urge for simplicity. On the other hand, right? I've described something that's fairly complex, and of course, a lot of people aren't going to want to have to deal with that. But in the spirit of reconciliation, I think we should deal with it, and I don't think it's necessarily that hard, right? To think about these things. Anyway, so in the fullness of time, Ian and Riel's database will allow you to pick some places where that you concentrate your effort and have the locations suggestions come up from their database. They won't try to make it so that you can do the whole world. Okay, you'll pick some location, and from day to day you may change that. Right, you may be working on Germany today, and you may be working on India tomorrow. So you may want to switch those, the database that you're looking into. But eventually that should happen. But then you have the other side of the hand, which is Alesh and his database of names, and that may not synchronize. And then besides the Native people in Canada, I also represent another category of people, which and this is these people are not unique, but it's just another example. I have Macedonian ancestors. Now, before 1912, my Macedonian ancestors, between 1300s and 1912, my Macedonian ancestors lived in the Ottoman Empire. Then that territory or at least a large part of that territory, became part of Greece. Another part of that territory became part of Yugoslavia. And yet another part of that territory became part of Bulgaria.
It was
Wow.
partitioned.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now, on the one hand, you can say that the people born after 1912 were born in those respective countries. You could say that. On the other hand, those people would not say that. Those people would say that they were born in Macedonia because that's their culture.
They identify as Macedonian.
Exactly. And so we have this all through history, right? That there are people who
Polish.
Okay. So you have lots.
Yeah, the three partitions of Poland. Poland didn't exist as a country for 300 years. It was partitioned by Russia, Lithuania, and Prussia. And so when the Prussians came in, they Germanified a lot of the Polish names. And then later when Poland became a thing again, a lot of those Germanic names went back to Polish names again. So this is where it's very difficult to do research over there. Go ahead.
So what we want is a database that is able to say, here is a location, and when in theory, this logical name, logical place. So I'll just use an example. The city of Montreal, where I was born, was originally called Hochelaga, and then became Ville Sainte Marie, and then became Montreal, and then I lived in this little place called Ville Saint Michel, which later became part of Montreal, was amalgamated into the city. Okay, and so if we could identify that this little neighborhood that I lived in as a geographic space, and then say, during these years it was known as this, and during these same years it was also known as this other thing, and during those same years it was also known as, right? And we can have all these also known as. Now, when we're doing a search, we might type in Ville Saint Michel, and the database is going to say, okay, but Ville Saint Michel is also, so I need to search in using these other names as well, right? To bring it into a more fulsome understanding of what place we're talking about.
Right, and with time modifiers, this is what changes the location. It either existed within the country or the state or the county at one point, and again the municipality grows, then annexes it, and now it's become part of this municipality. Yeah, all these AKAs should be presented as options, and you need to be able to select the correct one for that time frame.
Well, not just the time frame, but for the culture.
Right,
and the language.
So that's very interesting. Thank you for that, Murray. That clears up a lot of things for me, I think.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll have more questions as time goes on, but that's interesting. We experience the same name changes here in the U.S. as well, for different locations within a city and within a state and that sort of thing, how it changed from one county to another county or creating new counties. So we also have that situation. So I'm glad to know that Alesh and his band of techies, for lack of a better name, are at least thinking about it. It's not on the table as a priority right now, according to Chris, but that's good to know that they are thinking about it. I read something on name variations, and it just, okay. I understand there's going to be some changes over time.
I think
there's also a project. I don't know if it's a project, but there's a challenge going on right now to correct locations. That's primarily focusing on, names that are currently not in a way that it can be searched upon easily or be used in the query easily. Right, Steve? I see you nodding.
Well, I'm not aware of this challenge, but it sounds very important. I mean, if it's a place name correction challenge, that's great that people are focusing on that.
It's a G2G post. Yeah.
Yeah, I come across a lot of even place names that are just acronyms, like the acronyms of the states or the abbreviations, or USA, and it's like, we really should, spell it out so we could search it properly. So I'm constantly fixing a lot of that kind of stuff on my own accord.
We really
and to the point of the United States too, a lot of counties that were established in the past used to be a lot bigger, and then they broke them up into smaller and smaller counties. So you'll see that even a single place, like a single city, may have been in 3 or 4 different counties at a certain point in its history. So we need to make sure that we have all of those options available for those time frames.
Yeah.
And I guess Gordon's saying that Austria-Hungary was actually the one doing the partitioning. I guess that's where it gets a little fuzzy, again, depending on what was in existence at what time. So it just proves the point that it's incredibly complicated to do that kind of research.
Yeah.
You gotta go
like Amanda is saying, in Austria, we had towns that cropped up during the gold rush times, and those towns no longer exist. But they did exist. You can't erase history. They existed at one point in time. So you have to be able to record what was going on at that particular
Austria or is it
time.
Australia? I just want to understand. I think there was a gold rush in Australia.
Okay, it might have been Australia.
There was a gold rushes in more than one country, I'm sure.
Australia.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Okay.
See, I'm tuned into seeing a 2-digit.
Sorry, too much Europe was being thrown at you there for a little bit.
Up what it is. Yeah. Australia. Thank you very much.
I think
Denise, I should
issue with location.
Just a quick question. So in other words, I've just been using USA, but I should be spelling it out to United States of America. Is this what you're saying?
I think
or at least United States. Yes.
Yeah, I think they've shortened it so United States is acceptable because there isn't another country that uses United States on a larger frame.
Correct.
I'm sure there's like a United States of something else somewhere else, but we don't refer to it as such. Like the United States of America is pretty much like the only United States that we have in the database on a large.
Yeah.
And when you're filling in that location field, do you see a drop list?
Yeah.
Like what Steve was showing there for the Germany ones, you'll get a drop list. And that usually says United States. I've gotten into the habit of just, doing a few characters of the name and then looking at that drop list and then picking from there based on the time frame.
But of course, as you saw, we have to override it sometimes because Germany was the only option. So
exactly.
Put in a historical province.
So I've probably been using it properly, but or with United States, but just don't remember whether I did or not.
Yeah. And then you have the territory that is now the southern coast of the United States, which has been held by France and Spain and the United States.
And in Canada, you have the prairie provinces, Alberta, and you really should be using the correct one for that, Northwest Territories. Yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
I was working on Spanish Florida recently with some stuff in Natchez. Natchez was actually part of Spanish Florida, which we now know as Mississippi.
Correct.
Kind of crazy. The thing, Florida went all the way to the Mississippi River.
I think the worst things with locations is when people don't put any country or anything that would indicate what country it is, particularly as a lot of the places in the United States have named after places that people came from. A lot of them will be in places in England, Wales, Scotland, and that, but also other places in Europe.
Oh yeah, they like to name things after those.
And all right, in England, we don't put county behind things. So hopefully, if it's in the United States and somebody puts such and such a county, at least we know that it's more likely to be in the United States. But there are so many locations that need cleaning up on WikiTree, or actually even need adding. The number I've been working on merges that have been proposed. In that recently, the things that were proposed quite a long time ago and never went ahead, we all got rejected. And there are profiles where all you've got is a person's name and maybe 1 or 2 dates and no indication of location whatsoever. And that you're not at a loss. You're at a real loss because they haven't even got, say, a spouse where that might have a location on. They've got nothing. Those profiles are just, you
frustrating.
And you can't always tell who's upload, what they were, whether if they were uploaded as a JEDCOM with other things that might give you clues. You can't always tell. So basically, having a minimum location, if you think somebody was possibly born in a particular country but you don't know what county or anything, at least put the country on. At least it gives somebody some idea where we can start looking for this person. So
it's a good thing I have a background in geography, so I can discern some of those. But you would hate this, Hilary. There's like 17 places called Springfield in the United States alone.
That's right. Yes.
And a lot of them are capitals. A lot of them are capitals.
even
I
in
can
England,
drive to one in like a half hour.
England,
Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, in England, I've got a county that's got 2 places that are called Gumby. One's in a parish of St Peter's, the other's in a parish of St Nicholas, and the 2 have been mixed up by Family Search. I have been researching people in the Gumby St Nicholas, and they've been put on Family Search as being in Gumby St Peter. And it's the other side of the county, and it's obvious from other things that have gone on that they are on that one, because one's right on the border with another county, and things have happened across the county borders and things. But it is very difficult. End up having to put little notes on it saying, yes, this is right, it's incorrectly indexed, and whatever.
The people that don't live there don't understand. They're not doing a map search. I mean, the first thing I do is anytime I start researching a location, I'm going to a map. I'm trying to find its actual appearance and its relationship to the other one that might be confusing. It's like, where's the line? Where's the border? So I'm trying to understand all of those. There was a period when I was doing research in Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany where I came across a place called Pommern. Now, Pommern is basically Pomerania in German, but this Pommern is its own place in the district of Cochamzell within Rhineland-Palatinate. And there are people from Pommern in Rhineland-Palatinate, Prussia, because Prussia also overlapped and went into Rhineland-Palatinate at some point. So when you see Pommern, Prussia, some people are in the legitimate province of Pomerania in Prussia, and some people are in this Pommern in Cochamzell within Rhineland-Palatinate, which also became Prussia. It's horrendous.
Well, it's also, if you go, and I suspect that's in other European countries too, and in Sweden, you will have parishes, and there'll be a mother parish. Well, all the births are put in the mother parish, but they're not really born in that mother parish. They're born in, say, in somewhere, and then they put it in SUNY because SUNY is the biggest parish and it's the mother parish. And then, of course, that all gets split out. Yeah, but years later. And so it's, at first when I was doing it, I didn't realize that if they were in the SUNY birth column, that they weren't actually born in SUNY. They were born on a farm in another parish. And so I've had to go back and check and change a lot of things. But like I said, I'm sure that's true, not just in Sweden, but in all of Nordic and probably many, many European countries as well.
Yeah, and so if you have the data that's most specific, you want to make sure you're adding that data. Get it down to the village. Get it down to the farm, really. I mean, if you know that info, at least if you can't put it in the data field, put it in the narrative. So at least the narrative can explain what's happening in the data field, because the data field, again, may not be all inclusive or all exhaustive, right? And sometimes you have
baby genealogists don't know this, and that's where I was a baby genealogist and I had no clue about that. I thought big parish and country, that was good enough. And but it wasn't. So I've had to go back and change. And like I say, I think a lot of our errors that we're finding now is that baby genealogists who accept are the trees that are elsewhere that are wrong, and we just accept that without going to the smallest detail. And so we should really be pushing that.
No. We're fixing a lot of
that's a new term, baby genealogists. I like that.
All the newbies that put up errors, and then
I was a baby genealogist.
End up having to correct them later. We were all new at some point. Some of us had good mentors. Some of us just learned by our mistakes. So
yes,
information is power. The more information we have, the better. Instead of making it vague. Someone else doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, do the research all over again. Like we can create those breadcrumbs so that they can build on top of that research, right?
Awesome. I think we've beat the topic of locations to death, I think.
Research notes are the one good thing that you've got on WikiTree that you don't have in some other places. you can put in your research notes where you've looked, what you've found or not found, so that somebody else doesn't come along and have to do that same research again. Or they know, well, somebody searched this 2 years ago. This database may have been updated. I'll go and have a quick look to see if there's been any updates since then. And then they might find it. But at least they know what it was. If you'd only researched it the week before, there's probably not a lot of point in going back and doing it again. So,
and I just going back, that narrative is your friend. The narrative and all that biography space, use it. Just describe what you did. Tell people what you don't know. Maybe somebody will be able to find that census record that's missing. So I'm trying to put stuff into the bio itself. Just, it might look incomplete. I mean, the research notes section exists for that reason, and it's good to use those. I tend to integrate some of my profiles a little bit differently now for my own reasons, but everybody's different, right? Everybody researches differently.
Well, that's on my task list, right behind all this cleanup stuff.
I actually have to
been spending a lot of time cleaning up. Spring cleaning time, so I'm in a cleanup mode at least for the next month. On
that note, I actually do have to leave, so it's good that we talked about all that geography stuff. So this would probably be a good chance for me to bolt out of here. But thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Steven.
Right. Thank you, Steve.
And if anybody else has any questions regarding those German profiles, certainly hit me up. I'm Greenwood 3667. I'll just type that into the chat here so you guys can pull up my profile if you have any questions. So
good. Thank you.
Okay. Have fun, guys. Thanks again.
Enjoy your weekend. Or what's left of it. Any other questions?
Marie, what's that you said in the chat? What is that?
They have a I can't, what's it called now? Onomatopoeia, where you say something and it sounds like the thing you're talking about, right? Well, eschew obfuscation is actually obfuscating. Okay, so eschew means don't, like stay away from, avoid this, right? And obfuscation means hiding things. Okay, so sometimes we can put things into these profiles and people look at it and say, what the heck is this? Where are they talking about? Which is what we've been talking about, right? So eschew obfuscation is a thing that I learned years and years ago. When the first time I saw it, I did what you did. Like, what the hell does that mean? And I had to go look it up. And that's part of the point of eschew obfuscation, is for you to go ask questions and figure things out, and say to yourself, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to write things in a way that makes people have to go look things up. I'm going to write things in a way that makes it obvious to people.
Good tip. Especially for those of us that are non-writers. I come from a long line of factual activity. Most of my working life, it was all about facts. I started out as an accountant and then ended up in IT. So it was all about facts, specific facts. And I never learned the skill of actually writing, storytelling. So I'm trying to focus on that a little bit more. But it's a challenge because I want to stick to the facts, and that's it. Here's the facts. You make your story up from the facts.
I'm not particularly a storyteller. Having worked in a science-based profession, where you've got to prove things. I worked as a pharmacist. You had to have proof that something worked, didn't you? You're not going to give this to people if it doesn't work. They have to try things out. They have to make sure that something works before you can do it, or otherwise people will end up with problems. So we're told to sort of look critically at any research that's been done to make sure that was correct. And so therefore I'm coming more from a thing of, well, is this research you've done? Does it fit with what you put here? So so you'll find a lot of my profiles will be fairly factual, It's only perhaps I tried to start doing a bit more on people that I may have actually known, people that we may have a bit more information on personally, and that. But I'm not a great one for otherwise. Although having said that, I will put things. And if you and one thing I was going to also say is, we like research notes, but we also like our free space pages, because our free space pages give us chance to expand things so that we're not putting so much in the biography that somebody's only going to read the top few lines and think this is a really long one. I don't want to read the rest of it. So you've got the important facts on the biography, and then you get a lot more of the stuff to back it up on a free space page that somebody can go and have a look at, a bit more of the background and what might be going on at the time, or that sort of thing. That's ideal. Or a will that might have all the information, but you've extracted the important bits from. Those are the type of things that you should be putting in your free space pages, and you should be making use of those, because again, it's something that somewhere like Family Search, which is a similar thing to WikiTree, but is not the same. They don't have that. They have ability to put certain things, but not things in quite the same way to make it easier for somebody to come along.
Yeah. Now with U.S. Black Heritage, you mentioned wills, and typically what we do is actually transcribe those wills and put that on a free space page, so that because handwriting is very difficult to read in a lot of cases. We're getting this documentation oftentimes from the Freedmen's Bureau records, and they're all handwritten. Well, not all. There are some that are typed, but mostly handwritten. And so we actually have translators, a team. If you need something translated because the handwriting is so bad you can't read it, you can make a request on our Discord channel to have folks translate that information for you, and it will go into a free space page. So, and that's of course for wills of slave owners, so that we can identify, who they passed on their slaves to and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, because I'm not a writer, I use AutoBio a lot. So thank you for whoever created that. I love the AutoBio. It helps me think of other things that I need to insert into the biography. So I will start there, since I've got all the facts. I'll start there with the AutoBio and then add additional, oh yeah, I can add more information about this. So that helps too, a great deal. Yeah. Any other questions? This has been an awesome meeting, just talking about locations. That is a hot topic. Thank you, Gordon. You started it.
Okay.
Yeah. And thanks for that. The auto categorization too. You can do auto categorizing. So there's a lot of profiles that have recently been added to one place studies or one name studies when I use the auto category function. So that's cool as well.
Yeah. Has anybody?
Awesome.
Nobody's got a question. Nobody's put anything in the chat.
Oh, Denise, where do you find the descriptions of AutoBio and auto category?
If you've got here, I can go to my screen. I'll pick my great grandfather. Just so you can see, and I'll do it in edit mode.
Okay.
When you're right up above the biography section, you've got these items here. Okay. So if you click on categories, you get a list of options where you can add any category, add a location, a cemetery, one name study, or auto category. So when you click on auto category, you'll see the tree shaking, and that means it's reading all of the information that's in that text section there for the biography, and it will add anything else that needs to be added there. Nothing was added to this because they're already there.
Okay.
Yeah, if there was a one name study or one place study, that would be added up top above the biography where it should be. And the same thing with the biography. There's the auto bio. It does the same thing. It will. I'm not going to click on it because I don't want this bio to change. But
Yeah.
It will automatically update that biography for you.
Okay.
Gordon, those are part of web browser extension.
Yes.
And I put the URI for the browser extension page into the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
How much that WikiTree browser extension does, or what you can do. I was talking to some people earlier in the week and saying that my background's completely different to what they might be seeing because of the WikiTree browser extension. So it changes the view you get quite a bit. So, but it also, all those auto things, you can put stickers on with it and everything as well.
Yeah, it makes creating profiles a lot easier. I'm having that discussion right now with someone who I'm trying to convince to join WikiTree. They just, and I said it can't be any harder than using Ancestry or Family Search. If anything, it's easier than using Ancestry and Family Search because you got some other bells and whistles that do things for you. So it's a challenging discussion right now, trying to convince that person to come to WikiTree. But I'm a tenacious little person. I'll keep working on her.
Somebody is asking how to add stickers so they don't turn red. I think they're only turn red if there's no actual sticker for something. There's lots of stickers available, but if that particular sticker you're trying to add, you've got something wrong in it, then it's gonna come up red. Usually means that nobody's created one.
Something wrong, including filling in the parameters incorrectly or not filling in the parameters that should be filled in.
Right.
So, for example, is that a good example? No, I don't have a good example.
Yeah, I usually use the WikiTree browser extension now if I'm ever adding any stickers on. Or because you can search for what you want, and if it's there, it will find it. Sometimes it can go red if you put on a project, something to do with the project, when it's not actually part of that project or managed by that project or something like that. I know these sometimes go and not come up with an error. At least they'll come up in your suggestions if nothing else.
My fingers don't want to. But here's an example of one that will turn red. So if I say African American, sticker.
Yep. That's me.
Yeah, and I don't put the correct information. It will turn red if I can. Having control issues here with my. So see, it says the template has turned red because that sticker is not correct. So you basically, African American is supposed to have a dash in it for this particular sticker. So, sorry. Oops.
Take out preview.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the A has to be capitalized also, right?
Yeah, yes it does. So I have the correct version in here already.
Yeah.
I just typed that in so that you could see.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a lot. It doesn't need
an example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Once I
Yeah.
do that, go to preview, then I'll get the correct sticker. Okay. Same thing for your states. Here's one for Mississippi, a migration sticker. So if I had entered a parameter, like Murray was saying, if you enter a parameter incorrectly, instead of getting the sticker, you'll get the error that says template and whatever the name of it is incorrect. It's incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some, as Amanda.
Same thing with categories. Yeah. If you're trying to create a category that doesn't exist, you'll get a red. Yeah. It'll turn red on you.
Yeah, Amanda's put in the died young. If you don't put in the young as a capital Y, it turns red. So it doesn't take an awful lot. It can just be that you've got it in the wrong case, let alone so you know it's simple. That's why it's often easier if you've got the WikiTree browser extension on, just to check in there what you in the templates, because it will tell you if it's there or not and how you do it.
And actually, when you do the auto categories, if you've got a person who passed away before they were 18 years old,
it automatically
is the limit. You'll get that died young. It populates automatically for me, Denise, because I use the auto category. Yes,
Denise, put your mouse, put your cursor in the migrating ancestor.
Okay.
And now go to templates. And say edit template. And so there's your values that you need to include. Now, so if you didn't include Louisiana or Mississippi, then you'd have an error, right? Because this template requires that you have a destination and an origin. You're not required to have flags. Those are optional.
Because they've got an O on
this one's not optional. This one's required.
It says O on it as well, so it can be.
Okay. Because okay.
Actually, no, that says open link, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Click on legend.
And that says restore value. All right. All right. Required is the red ones. E is preferred, but they'll all look like they're preferred, but you're not going to get what you want if you don't put the things in.
Yeah, well, basically the R says put it back to the default. Basically, is what it's saying. Restore the value. So go ahead and click on the R there. We're not going to save it, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
No, not that R. Over beside the where
this
it says
R.
RO. Yeah, click on the R.
Wait a minute. I got the shakes again. There we go. I've clicked. Nothing's happening.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wait a second. Delete U.S. state flag. Yeah, delete all that. Okay. Now hit R. Okay. So if you've been in there editing, and you made a change, and now you're rethinking your decision to make a change, you can say, "Oh, please put it back the way it was."
Okay.
If you have made changes and you've decided I don't want any of these changes, you just close it. You don't update changes. And then if you update the changes, then of course it'll make the change.
Awesome. I never thought about these. I thought the R meant required. I never looked at the legend to see pink is required.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. See, I learned something new today. Every day, I learned something new.
Yeah. I don't have any migrated ancestors, so I don't use a migrated ancestors thing at all, because I never need to.
Well, within USBH, of course, we're tracking how people move from one location to another. Especially in the 1940s, there was a huge migration from the southern states to the northern and western states. So we're, as part of USBH, we're keeping track of that kind of information, and that's why I put that in there, that actually migrated from Mississippi to Louisiana.
Yeah, I do see people moved. Obviously, I've got people that went. I've got somebody who went to Canada as a British home child, came back to England, and then died in the First World War while he was fighting in the First World War. So basically, I could have said he migrated, I suppose, but he wasn't an ancestor anyway. So he was only an uncle or something. So he wasn't my ancestor. So basically, he's not going to get something like that. So
yeah, well, when we're tracking people like Harriet Tubman, who migrated from the United States to Canada, you know, she lived in the US for a while and then she migrated to Canada. So we put that migration tag on her as well to show that at some point in time she was living in Canada. She was an actual resident of there.
I live about an hour's drive away from a town called Owen Sound. And if you know the history of the Underground Railroad, you'll know that Owen Sound was a terminus of the Underground Railroad.
I didn't know that, but thank you. We might want to check and make sure we've got that documented. We just added some new categories for the Underground Railroad to identify the railroad stations, what they called stations back in those days. Who the conductors were along that railroad.
If we've got no more questions, if we've got no more questions, I'll stop the recording.
Well, I'd just like to do a call out.
One other thing.
If you'll bear with me for a moment.
Yeah.
Because last week I added someone to the 1900 landmark list, and she was a cousin of mine, and I thought that she would be a good person to put in that landmark list. Anyway, I later went back to see, who I'm related to in that whole list, the 1900 list, and I saw a name that I recognized, and I had to go look. And now this was a Macedonian man who had come to Toronto, and his descendants include some people who are famous in Toronto, or they're notable in Toronto for their business acumen and what they managed to accomplish. Anyway, so I saw this name and I thought, geez, who else is doing Macedonian research here on WikiTree? So I went to look to see who'd worked on this profile, and I saw a name I recognized. Now, Stu Ward is a name that I run across all the time. And, I'll be working on profiles, and then I'll see that Stu Ward has gone in and done something to that profile. And he's always adding information. He's always adding, maybe it's burials, graveyards, or, who knows. But Stu is always working on things. And I know of Stu as being related to me on my New England aspect of my ancestry. Okay, I have American ancestors. I have 3 American ancestors, and I say that because only 3 of them were born in the United States of America. Their ancestors were born in colonial America. So I only have 3 American ancestors, but the rest were, before them. Anyway, in any case, so that's where I know Stu from. He also is involved in a lot of Canada stuff. But I thought, what's Stu doing here in Macedonian work? So I contacted Stu, and he, it turns out that he's got an uncle who is Macedonian through marriage. And I thought, wow. So I went in and I took a look at this guy's profile, and I found that, okay, it's not all that complete. And one of the things Stu said was, it's really hard to find records for the Macedonian people who came to Toronto. Well, I've got this research tree that I work in, and I keep all my information. And I've also got access to a book that was written by a Macedonian man about a particular village in Macedonia. So anyway, so I have a lot of research, and so I went and worked on this guy's profile, and I've added people, and I've added I've clarified the marriages and which children belong to which wife, and and so on. And I'm going to continue working on that. But I'm mentioning this because this is how WikiTree works, right? And earlier we were talking about how Denise and Hilary were saying that they weren't writers, and they put in the facts, and I do that too. I'm a writer, but I tend to mostly do just the facts. I put in all the facts because what I'm trying to do is build a line. I'm trying to see how these connect. This person who's living is connected to that person in their ancestry, and I may not know all about those people, but maybe somebody else does. So if I can put in all of the sources that I can find, and some people have a hard time finding all the sources, so if I can put in all the sources, then somebody else can come along later and work on it and add descriptions and embellish the facts that I've put in. So right now I'm concentrating on getting the facts right about this family, and then I suspect that Stu and his brother, who also is working on WikiTree, will come and do more, and will embellish what I find. But this is how WikiTree works. You get started. You don't have to be perfect. You've got to get that person into the tree, get as much information as you can to support the existence of that person, and then it's okay to leave them, because somebody else can come along later and say, oh, I know that guy. I'm going to fill it in. I'm going to talk about his children. I'm going to talk about his career, etc., etc. So that's my little spiel. And Hilary, now if you'd like to end the recording, feel free.
There was one person asking, what is 1900 landmark list? We just had a discussion about that a couple Saturdays ago at the Saturday Roundup. So there is a Roundup video about that. The landmark 1900. You need to watch the video, because it's not about locations. It's about people and connecting people that we call landmarks that were living by the end of 1900 or beyond, as long as they were alive during the year 1900, from January 1 to December 31st. So I would strongly suggest you go out to the Saturday Roundup for, it was like 2 weeks ago.
The 14th.
It was
20th, 14th.
It was mentioned this week, and I think it was mentioned the previous week when I was on.
The 14th. It's on the 14th. And then, of course, we had Patty Waldron, who was talking about that project on the 14th. And then he was a guest again, filling in for Greg Clark this week on the 21st. And a lot of the profiles that we were reviewing in Connection Checkers, he identified whether or not they were landmark 1900 profile eligible. So take a look at Saturday Roundup, March 14th, and you'll get a complete explanation of landmark 1900.
Yeah. Okay.
It was great to have you with us today, and we hope you'll join us again. We hold these sessions every second Thursday evening and fourth Sunday morning of the month. That's United States Eastern Time. You can always find the full details on the Member Q&A via Zoom Free Space page. Or follow the new members tag so that you are sure to see our monthly post in G2G. In the meantime, see you in the branches.